They always said I'm wrong, but what they doing today? I think they want me gone, but I ain't going away. They told me I was wrong, but look at my ass today. Da 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 da.
Yo guys, what's going on? I'm Tim Kelly along with Justin Godsey of the Nation Sports Blog. This is the Real Sports Talk. Tim Tebow, numerous reports have come out over the last few days since Greg McElroy's been named the starter for the remainder of the season for the New York Jets that Tim Tebow will not return in 2012. Today, an official report came out from someone saying, source Tim Tebow in Newsday in New York, Long Island, wherever it's from. I didn't need that to know that Tim Tebow wasn't returning to New York. We all knew that it has not worked out. It's been a disaster. A lot of people, though, want to know what the next step is for Tim Tebow. Is it a position change? I think that's unlikely. I really do. I think that when he's come this far, not that he's come this far in terms of doing good, but when he's come this far in his career to the point where he's had success in college, he's had some success in Denver, he's not going to switch positions. He's not going to take all the glory of being a quarterback and then go be a fullback. It's not going to happen. I think he'd be a good tight end, but I don't think he's going to do that. So we've narrowed down some of the options for Tim Tebow, but I think as you'll find, there's a lot better options available for teams to go after. Justin, what do you think about the Jets and the whole Tim Tebow disaster?
Well, you brought up what's the next step for Tim Tebow. I want to talk about the next step for the New York Jets. Now, Mark Sanchez, the Jets are telling that Mark Sanchez is going to be testing, the Jets are going to be listening to trade offers, or they're going to be trying to trade Mark Sanchez. The whole quarterback situation in the New York Jets has just been downright pitiful. I mean, so much drama, Mark Sanchez not getting the job done, even though he did lead them to multiple AFC championship games, but yet they could not win the big game. As for Tim Tebow, you know what? There has been multiple reports saying, what are some other destinations? Could he go into the CFL? Going to the CFL, it's completely different from the NFL because there's only 3 downs, and then it's pretty much your third down is your 4th down. You know what? Tim Tebow could actually be a solid quarterback in Canada. Try to build a solid arm strength, come back to the NFL, and attempt to come back. That could be a possibility. But you know what? The NFL, I don't think any teams are going to go out and get Tim Tebow, no doubt. But I don't see him going to the CFL.
I'm not sure teams are going to get Tim Tebow because we're going to go through a list of the teams that we really think have an option of getting Tim Tebow. And those teams that we've narrowed down are Minnesota, San Francisco, and there's just possibilities we'll go further in depth. Minnesota, San Francisco, Arizona, New England, Buffalo, the Browns, the Jaguars, the Raiders, and the Chiefs. So that sounds like a good amount of teams. But then you look at all the quarterbacks. This is an off-season where if you need a quarterback, you have the option of going into the draft. It's not last year's draft class, so the draft probably isn't the best way to get a quarterback, but someone is going to take Matt Barkley, someone's going to take Geno Smith. So those are 2 guys that likely will be starting somewhere next year. Then you have Michael Vick, who will be out in Philadelphia. There's no question he will start somewhere. Alex Smith was tearing it up for the 49ers. I think if he finds the right coach to pair up with, he will have success. No question, though, he's going to be starting. Matt Flynn got guaranteed a starting spot in Seattle, only for Russell Wilson to come in. And look, the Seahawks clearly have made the right decision in that respect to go with Russell Wilson, but I think Matt Flynn has potential. Joe Flacco is going to be a free agent. Unlikely he leaves Baltimore, but, I mean, he's out there. Kirk Cousins has shown a ton. I don't think the Redskins will trade him, but I think if teams got to the point of feeling that desperate to go to Tim Tebow, I think they'd be more likely to give the Redskins a call about Kirk Cousins. Jason Campbell's an option. Mark Sanchez will be available. So, yeah, it sounds like a lot of teams that would be available, but would have a quarterback opening. But when you go down the list of all the other quarterbacks who are going to look for jobs this offseason or be drafted, all of a sudden his options aren't as high. So let's go through each team, Justin, and look in terms of how likely they would be to pick him up and what type of fit it would be. Let's start with the Minnesota Vikings. They're likely going to go to the playoffs, and we all know it's on the back of Adrian Peterson and a pretty solid defense. Christian Ponder's not impressed a lot of people. could Tim Tebow work in Minnesota?
Tim Tebow couldn't work in Minnesota. Now, it's questionable because this whole season is highlighted by Adrian Peterson. Now, we talked a little bit before we made this video talking about the whole, situation that Tim Tebow is a scrambling quarterback. That's pretty much all he does. You're going to have Tim Tebow at quarterback, and you're going to have Adrian Peterson at running back. That is a dynamic duo right there because both players run with fast speed. It could possibly work out in Minnesota, but record-wise, you know what? It's questionable. I mean, when you're looking at the record, Tim Tebow, like I said, does not have the powerful arm accuracy. He doesn't have the greatest arm strength in the world. But you're pretty much going to be relying on Adrian Peterson, have him carry the workload.
And if the Vikings make the playoffs, no matter how bad Christian Ponder's been, there is no way that they're going to go in the direction of Tim Tebow. They're out for me. The next team I have is the San Francisco 49ers as a backup. Not because I think that he's going to be or that the 49ers need Tim Tebow or anything like that, but they're going to trade Alex Smith. That's almost a done deal. Colin Kaepernick's going to be their guy going forward. But John Harbaugh is going to be intrigued by this opportunity, I believe. He is someone that I can see, similar to what Andy Reid did when he brought Michael Vick in, although Michael Vick had way more talent. But when he brought Michael Vick in, he was intrigued. I think John Harbaugh potentially could be intrigued by maybe working with Tim Tebow. He was a former quarterback with the Colts and Cowboys. I don't think it's likely, but it's a possibility.
I'm going to say no on this one for the 49ers. I think with Colin Kaepernick, with the way that he has been playing, coming in for relief for Alex Smith, who has been, a little bit shooken up with injuries, I think they're going to bring back Alex Smith. I don't think they're going to trade him because they really need that solid backup quarterback, and that's what we've been getting out of Alex Smith out of the past 2 years. Now, their third-string quarterback, Scott Tolzien, I think he's gonna be on the roster, but if you're gonna bring in Tim Tebow, someone is obviously gonna be gone, and I think the more likely man out, like you said, is Alex Smith, but it's not going to work out. In my prediction, it's not going to work out in San Francisco. I think Colin Kaepernick's going to remain the starting quarterback for the remainder of the year, more than likely, and then going into the next season. I mean, Alex Smith, they just have to hold on to him because, you know what, he's a special surprise because, you know what, this is the guy who we saw, countless years be like, okay, get him out of San Francisco, get him out of San Francisco. You know what, he's really turned those words into, he's been really stepping up and using those words into motivations from the fans who have been really bashing him and has really stepped up. So I'm gonna be saying Colin Kaepernick, Alex Smith stay, Tim Tebow not come to San Francisco.
There's no way Alex Smith is going to stay, but I think that when you look at the options available, I think I could see them going with a guy like Jason Campbell, maybe Mark Sanchez as a backup. The Jets would have to eat pretty much all of his contract, so who knows. The next team is the Arizona Cardinals, who have had God knows all the issues. John Skelton, who we thought maybe had some potential coming this year, he sucks. Ryan Lindley is not an NFL quarterback. So this is a team that is interesting, but at the same time, you have Kevin Kolb there as an option, and then Michael Vick could end up replacing Kevin Kolb for the second time in his career, taking his starting job. That's a place where I could see him working. Matt Flynn's not going to go there because they're not going to trade him in the division. So I think that Arizona is actually a very possible destination for Michael Vick, and if they don't go in a direction like that, I could see Kevin Kolb returning as the starter there next year.
I do see Kevin Kolb returning as a starter next year because, he's had a fantastic season, leading the team to a 4-0 record, and then the losing streak began with the Buffalo Bills. He was out after a horrific injury. I mean, it was actually pretty...
and remember, one thing is that they're going to have a top 5 draft pick, so actually, Matt Barkley or Geno Smith, one of those two could likely end up there, too.
I don't see it because this offensive line needs help, and I think you got to go after their offensive line because... if you guys look back in the early days of the season, I mean, the reason Kevin Kolb is out is the lack of production his offensive line has been producing. And you know what? They need someone to really step up. And I think with the draft who has a really solid, receiver core, a couple of good quarterbacks, and the offensive line, draft class is actually a really solid draft class. So I really see that the Cardinals going after him. Going the quarterback-wise, John Skelton has been terrible. I'm sorry, I don't really like the bash, but you know what? John Skelton, Ryan Lindley have not been productive at all, not whatsoever. You can't even put Skelton in as a backup quarterback. He's not a productive quarterback in the National Football League. You could build a case as a third-string quarterback, but you know what? Tim Tebow coming into Arizona, it could really work out because. you know what, this is a team that really has a solid running back core. You got LaRod Stevens-Howling, Beanie Wells, and you got Andre Roberts, Larry Fitzgerald has a good receiver core there. I think it could actually be a really solid workout there for Arizona for Tim Tebow.
And when we say workout, we don't know if it's actually going to work there, but as a place where it could potentially be fit. The New England Patriots are a team that is intriguing because Josh McDaniels, the offensive coordinator, he drafted Tim Tebow in Denver, took a huge reach, or at least it was considered that at the time, took a huge reach, took Tim Tebow in the first round that year, never really got that much of a chance to work with them. He had a success with John Fox in Denver. Josh McDaniels, some people think that he might get another head coaching job, which is very possible. Josh McDaniels is a very good offensive mind and a guy who I think will still make a very good head coach someday. If he does, I don't know where it's going to be, so I can't speculate on that. But if he stays in New England, it's a possibility. There's not going to be any issues. No one's going to be saying bench Tom Brady for Tim Tebow. But maybe I think it could be interesting because they're in the same division as the Jets. I don't know. I don't think it's likely, but I think that it would be interesting.
I won't even think of the possibility of the Patriots going after him because you got the up and coming Ryan Mallett who actually has had a couple of games with the Patriots, really looked really solid. But you know what? I think with the way that Tom Brady said he wants to play for another 6 or 7 years, that's what he said.
Yeah.
I don't know if he has a lot of that in him. That's what he said. Please correct me if I'm wrong if he said 6 or 7 years. But I think the Patriots are really highly into Ryan Mallett right now. Bringing in another quarterback for Tim Tebow, it's just going to give this team more publicity. And I don't see it working out unless he really wants to make a position trade to receiver, which the receivers for the Patriots, has been really sketchy. With Brandon Lloyd having a couple of decent games, but it's highly unlikely that Tim Tebow.
Well, he's not going to go to receiver. He could go to tight end, and we know your cousin.
That's also crowded in New England with.
Yeah, but we
Aaron
also know
Hernandez.
that New England and pretty much every tight end that goes to New England ends up being a superstar. So I don't know. I don't think it's likely. If he makes a position change, then all bets are off. You have the Buffalo Bills, who are in for a decent amount of money still with Ryan Fitzpatrick. They're probably going to go in a different direction at head coach. This has been an extremely disappointing year for Ralph Wilson and the Bills. I don't see Tim Tebow ending up with the Bills. I just don't.
I think I'm going to have to agree with you there a little bit. I think with Ryan Fitzpatrick, with the contract that he has, he hasn't really stepped up this year. Their defense, the free agent bust, being Mario Williams, I just don't see it. You can really build a case for it. I can't explain it right now, but, I think Ryan Fitzpatrick, he has stepped up in recent years, and, but this is just not the season, but I think they're going to give Fitzpatrick another shot.
Yeah, I think Fitzpatrick gets another year, and if not, Michael Vick has always been someone connected there. Alex Smith, Matt Flynn, you go down the list, there are better options than Tim Tebow, and there's some in Smith, Vick, and Flynn that we know are better options than Tebow. The Cleveland Browns, they're not going in I put it on there, but are they really going to go away from Brandon Weeden after 1 year?
I do not see it. I think with Brandon Weeden, he brings something very special to the plate. He has had, some small injuries this season, but you know what? They're going to give him another shot. I just hope he doesn't become one of those quarterbacks who goes down as one of the losing quarterbacks in the Cleveland Browns organization. You're looking at like Derek Anderson, Tim Couch, and everything.
But it's been the team this year. Brandon Weeden, he struggled early on, but he's actually turned his season around as of late.
He has a good receiving core around him, which could make him an elite quarterback in the way future. I'm not saying right now. I'm a huge fan of Brandon Weeden. No doubt. You got Gordon, Massaquoi, you got Josh Cribbs there, Greg Little. This receiving core, young, talented receiving core for Brandon Weeden gives him a nice core to throw to. I just hope he doesn't turn out to be one of those type of quarterbacks that the Browns be like, okay, bad year, time to move on to another quarterback.
They're not going to do that this early. He is 29 years old, though, so we'll see what happens. Next, we have the Oakland Raiders. Carson Palmer's there, but it's been a horrendous year. You're going to have another head coach like you seem to every year. If they're going to move on for Carson Palmer, it's not going to be for Tim Tebow, though.
Yeah, I don't see Tim Tebow coming in. You still gotta give. I still think one of the most under the radar type of quarterback is the third string quarterback Terrell Pryor. I'm going with Raiders fans in this one. Just give Terrell Pryor an opportunity here. There's no way Oakland's going to go after Tim Tebow.
No, Terrell Pryor is the horrible
Just
mechanic.
give him a shot.
There's no reason. Why would you give him a shot? Because you look down the guys available this offseason. Every single one of these guys, I'd rather give Mark Sanchez a shot because he has way more potential, better mechanics, better footwork. You got Michael Vick, Alex Smith, Matt Flynn. They're all better options than what you would get out of Terrell Pryor. And if you're to the point of going to Terrell Pryor,
I'm not saying I'll give him the full season to start. I'm talking about giving him just a chance to see what he can prove. You know, the Raiders are just giving like 2 or 3 snaps during the preseason. That's not enough to show what Terrell Pryor is fully capable.
But it needs to be when you're not a first round pick and you're not a huge pick. I mean, look at how Nick Foles and Russell Wilson got chances because they blew it up in the preseason. That's what you have to do when you're not a high-profile pick. Terrell Pryor hasn't done that. And if they're going to go to Terrell Pryor, then you might as well just keep Carson Palmer.
You said with the Philadelphia Eagles and Nick Foles that Nick Foles is not going to be the starting quarterback for the Eagles. And look how that has turned out.
Yeah, I didn't think I didn't see this transpiring either. But Nick Foles has much better attributes and skills than him too. No
doubt. I'll give everything over to Nick Foles over Terrell Pryor, no doubt. But you know what? It's still an opportunity to look at what Terrell Pryor can bring to the plate.
Yeah, but I don't think you can go into a season after they've been as unsuccessful as they've been and say, we're going to give Terrell Pryor a shot when there's all these options this season. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. The next team we have is the Kansas City Chiefs. I think the Chiefs are unlikely because they're likely going to end up with the number 1 pick, and I see them taking Matt Barkley.
I see them taking Geno Smith. There's no way in hell that the Chiefs are going to go out there and take, Tim Tebow. I think they're going to go with Geno Smith, who brings multiple attributes: a solid arm strength. He got some pocket. He's a good pocket precision quarterback. Can run, extend the play. Something that the Kansas City Chiefs do not have. I mean, Brady Quinn. I'm a big fan of Brady Quinn, but he hasn't been getting the job done. We all know that Matt Castle has not been getting the job done. I don't know. The fans are just not a huge fan of Castle at all. Give Geno Smith the opportunity if they get the opportunity to draft him.
The last time Brady Quinn got the job done was in Notre Dame, so they're not going to stick with you there. I think they go with one of the 2 guys available. Whatever one has the better pro day, combine, everything. Final team that has been connected the most, and they were connected last offseason, were the Jacksonville Jaguars. Tim Tebow got the option to go there last year. He went to New York instead. He's from Florida. Well, he's lived in Florida. He's from the Philippines, technically. He played for the Gators. We all know that. He's one of the greatest college football players of all time. Jacksonville Jaguars, they don't... Blaine Gabbert has been... He's had moments, but overall he hasn't done much. It's a team that really needs to make money. They're not going to be successful pretty much no matter who their starting quarterback is next year. And if you look at the options that are available this offseason, unless they draft one of the 2 guys, which is unlikely, they're not going to draft another first-round guy. The only option that I see that is really a huge name, and even if he doesn't produce, will bring in ticket sales, is Michael Vick. But Tim Tebow in Florida might make more sense. He's not going to probably produce as much as Vick, but he's a bigger name in Florida because of having played there. I think that this is the one place that it is truly possible.
Yeah, he's a fan favorite down in Florida. The quarterback situation is very questionable right now. You got Chad Henne, Jordan Palmer obviously not going to get the opportunity to start. And then Blaine Gabbert has been injury prone his whole career. When you look at it, if the Jacksonville Jaguars do make a serious push for Tim Tebow, I really think if they really do sign him, he's obviously going to be handed the starting role. Over Chad Henne, who has come in for relief for Blaine Gabbert. I don't know exactly which week he went down with an injury, with a shoulder injury, but Chad Henne has produced really well throughout his time. He has passed for over multiple 300-yard games. That's very impressive. But I think with the way that the fans really, in Florida, to a standard, they really praise Tim Tebow as this guy's going, he's going to come down to Florida and win us a championship. Not even, no.
No, he's not going to do that, but I think for once the Jaguars would have something exciting and if Tim Tebow sucks after a few weeks, it's not going to matter. But for at least a little bit, they'll have some people coming to the games. They'll have some attention on their team, and maybe that's what they need. I don't know. I know that last offseason, the general manager was not interested, the owner was, and quite honestly, if they're still having money issues down there, it doesn't really matter what the general manager wants. They're going to do something that is going to make them money and put them on the map, and that might be what they end up doing if they bring in Tim Tebow.
When you look at this too, you also want to go back to the Minnesota Vikings like we talked about. You got another top running back in this team, Maurice Jones-Drew. It's pretty much going to be all Maurice Jones-Drew carrying the workload, kind of like Adrian Peterson.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I think that it's possible Tim Tebow's not in the NFL next year. It's possible he ends up with one of these teams. A lot of these teams, it's hard to tell right now because we don't know who their head coach is going to be. It'll have to be someone who's ready for a project and ready to take on potential distractions and everything that comes with Tim Tebow. We'll see what happens. I'm Tim. He's Justin. We'll see you guys later.
Just a little place around the corner from fear. Be there by next year. Where I'm going.